to which extent you will be exposed to this in the next instance. There is no experimental data to indicate what happens in a case like that. We are now going into the experimental animal department, where we are doing feeding studies in rats with genetically modified ingredients, food, and DNA constructs. So we are now opening a room where the rats are living. They are very well fed, they have a good life here. And here are our scientific helpers. This is a very unique experiment in the sense that it's the first experiment we know of where you have designed it so that you can detect any difference between these rat groups, and then you can go backwards and find out what this difference means in terms of health, for instance, or in terms of malfunctions of the organs or whatever. The background for this is that many places in the world, people and domestic animals are already eating genetically modified food or feed originating in genetically modified plants. In addition to that, the intended use in humans and domestic animals, of course, as you will know, on its way from the soil and to the table or the animal house, a lot of different species and animals will be in and consume all the genetically modified plants. And we don't know anything about what effects this will have on any organism. No, after the rats are sacrificed in the Department of Experimental Animals, the organs have been frozen down at a very low temperature. And then what we want to do is to analyze the organs and see whether our foreign DNA has arrived in those organs and in what condition the DNA can be found there in the organs. Well, in some experiments in a German group with mice, this German group which is led by Dr. Walter Dörfler in Cologne, were demonstrating that some types of foreign DNA were not cleared from the organisms, from the mice organism. It went to the internal organs and were even inserted into the DNA of the mice. If that is the case, if that happens, then it may be the start of a highly unwanted process with regard to health.
It seems like a wide-scale experiment on humans, in view of the fact that genetically modified food has been on the market for 8 years and has already been eaten by millions of Americans. However, it is an experiment that has been conducted without control groups. No knowledge can be gained as to whether and in what form our health is affected if one group eats genetically modified foods, but a control group is lacking. The entire population is simply subjected to the same potentially harmful substances. A few scientists suspect that there might be a connection to the increase of chronic illnesses and the weakening of the immune system.
I was maybe one of the most vocalized proponents of genetic engineering in Norway, at least until the late 1980s. And what happened then was that we were using the transgenic techniques a lot, and you were so enthusiastic because you were thinking about all the potential benefits of genetic engineering, and you thought there's a revolution going on which will give a lot of advantages to mankind, and I'm part of that revolution. And you felt very special and very bright. But then in my own experiments with transgenic techniques, I realized that if some of the things I observe here which I consider very interesting for scientific reasons. If these observations were made in the real ecosystems or in the real organisms, that might really make great problems, and sometimes ecological catastrophes or very, very alarming disease. But then as time went on, I had to accept that this is being intended to be used as transgenic plants, for instance, in the real ecosystems, and it's going to be used as food and feed for real animals and real humans. And then I had to start to use my knowledge to try to look whether the potential theoretical risks were real or not.
Unlike in Europe, genetically modified grains, such as canola, maize and soya, still land on the dinner table in the USA, without being recognized as such nor labeled. The consumers have no opportunity, while shopping or eating out, to identify these foods.
Okay, well, I'm into this boycott because to be a seafood restaurant in this time and age is saying something, because we've been here for 6 years. We sell a hell of a lot of fish. We do about $12 million a year. So when we make a decision, it affects a lot of things. And the decisions we make affect markets. You know, we buy a lot of fish. So if we decide not to buy a particular fish or not to sell a fish, that means a lot.
Do you like I think this really recognizes the fact that chefs and restaurant owners are gatekeepers. Their responsibility is to find out what's going on in the food world. It's very complicated, especially in the United States, where there are virtually no labeling laws, particularly around fish. And consumers don't have a lot of time. They're in a rush when they go to the grocery store, when they come to a restaurant, they don't want to read a long document. And so it's our responsibility as chefs and restaurateurs to do the work, to find out everything we can about the food, how it was raised, what is in it, what isn't in it, whether it's healthy, whether it's good for the environment. And then after we've screened all that, after we've thought about that, we select what will go on the menu, and very importantly, what won't go on the menu. Transgenic fish are bred to grow faster, be stronger, and they have a tremendous advantage over the wild fish population. We don't know what this might do to us, or our children, or our children's children. And the government needs to become more active and at the very least label it so we know what we're eating. It's just so unfair for people to work in ignorance. Even though they care, even though they want to know, if the government doesn't cooperate, we're all victims of big food.